Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPa here again, and Bungie just dropped some massive information on Season 21 ability tuning, and I wanted to go over this with you guys because I think it's going to really change up the way we play the game, change up the meta, which is great for me personally because it leads to a lot more builds and different types of playstyles being viable, which I am all for. So let's check this out and see what changes are in store. So, the high level goals increase viability of roaming supers and high level PvE content. We haven't seen that in a long time, which is good. Incorporate subclass keywords into the selection of light subclass supers. Reduce the amount of unlimited uptime mobility available in the Crucible. I think that's good ultimately. I know some people are not going to be happy with it, but I think I don't think the crazy mobility all the time is great for the Crucible overall. Increase build crafting capabilities of a selection of stasis and light subclass aspects. So, fragment budget review, increase the fragment slot allotment for the following aspects from 1 to 2. So, all of the fragments that only had one aspect slot now have two, which is massive. So, Trapper's Ambush, Shatter Dive, Gunpowder Gamble, Titan Bastion, Juggernaut, and then Warlock Chaos Accelerant. I think that's a good thing overall. I think it makes things more even across the board. It doesn't make you feel like you have to pick one because of the aspect slots, and it doesn't hinder you there. Oh, look at this Titan. That's my boy right there. Super tuning. All supers increase PvE damage resistance by 20%. That's kind of crazy. So we have new roaming supers. One of the ways we're working to increase viability is through damage resistance. In addition to damage resistance values that supers have against other players, all supers have additional intrinsic damage resistance against PvE enemies. So they're increasing that. So I wonder if that's going to apply to like Wall of Radiance, because I hope not, because that's already super strong and it's just going to make it much more viable. So if it doesn't apply to like Bubble and but really Well of Radiance, then this is a win in my opinion, because I do think having the option to run those different subclasses, if you make an incredibly tanky character, to go out and use your super in end game content to clear ads is a good thing. Hunter, we're happy with Hunter supers are at high level PvE. They offer strong burst, etc. Golden Gun and Arc Staff are slightly underperforming. Golden Gun increased PvE damage by 20%. Arc Staff increased PvE damage by 20% as well. Spectral Blades has historically been a significant underperformer. Increased PvE damage by 35%. That's huge. Heavy attack now weakens targets on hit. Again, huge. Fixing issues causing some right-handed spectral blade attacks to fail to connect when attacking at maximum attack speed. Big change. I think that's going to be good. Hopefully it allows versatility and viability of spectral blades going forward. Gathering Storm for Arc 3.0, we intentionally required significantly higher player precision on the initial throw. To address this, we're making targeted adjustments. Gathering Storm, direct impact damage versus players increased. Delayed lightning strikes damage versus players increased. Lingering lightning tick damage versus players increased. Now deals increased damage versus Well and Ward of Dawn. So it's a counter to those. That makes sense. On the whole, we believe Titan supers are currently falling but short in high level PvE. I agree with this 100%. While increased Fists of Havoc's PvE damage and Lightfall, its performance in high difficulty contests has noticeably improved. So Fist of Havoc, light attack cost reduced 8.5 to 6%. Heavy attack reduced 18 to 20. Increased heavy attack PvE damage by 33%. Massive. Heavy attack now blinds targets near the center of the slam area. Okay. I mean, this might be usable now. I might be an insurmountable skull for it, man, going forward. But good changes and something that I will definitely be testing out next season to see if it actually works as intended. Glacial Quake's Heavy Slam is in a solid place. They want to increase the light attack, so increase Shiver Strike on super by 10%, increase light attack damage by 20%. Okay. Glacial Quake was already pretty strong, but it's mostly because of the effect, not really the initial damage. So that's an interesting change. Sentinel Shield, Hammer of Soul, and Burning Maul were happy with performance, but we feel that some minor damage increase would significantly help their usability. Sentinel Shield, increased PvE damage, good. Maybe Doomfangs make a comeback. Hammer of Soul, increased PvE damage 10%. Not too crazy, but Hammer of Soul is already good because you can use it at a distance. And then Burning Maul, increased PvE damage by 10%. Now creates a Sunspot on cast when Soul Invictus is equipped. Nice. Matching the behavior of Hammer of Soul. Heavy attack cycle now applies Scorch over time. Again, I think that's good. I'd probably be a Burning Maul main on Solar going forward, I think. Warlocks, let's see, Nova Warp. Increased PvE damage. I don't know if anyone's ever going to use Nova Warp necessarily. Fully charged attack now makes enemies volatile on hit. That's good. So I mean, they're adding these things. I don't know if they'll still be usable, but like adding Scorch to like major enemies for like the Burning Maul, or adding volatile on like champions and stuff could be good. Nova Bomb increased PvE damage by 20%. Hopefully Nova Bomb is viable. Void, the only thing holding Void back in PvE for the Warlock has been the supers. So I'm excited to see how that all works. Now, Stormcaller has been underwhelming. Chaos Reach and Storm Trance. So increased PvE damage by 25% for Storm Trance. Damage ramp while attacking now occurs more quickly, which is cool. Landfall, Detonation, and Seekers now jolt targets. Good. I just want to be able to use these in PvE somewhere and have them feel fun. Chaos Reach increased PvE damage, sustained damage on a single target. Now creates a jolting lightning strike at the target's location. Increased damage resistance versus players. Increased maximum strafe speed. Adjusted super camera to avoid the player's body blocking the view of targets while strafing. Now, all good changes. I really am curious about how the jolting lightning strike is going to work, and if it's going to add an effect that is visual. That's cool, though. Happy with the Winter's Wraith. Increased PvE damage by 10%. That might make the new Bellicose exotic arms a little bit more viable. We'll see. Daybreak adjusted the camera, so that's nothing too crazy. Strand tuning updates. So a bunch of changes to the Hunter. Increased projectile travel range, increased damage versus PvE combatants. Slightly reduced speed of the dart as it returns. Increased energy gain catching the dart. Now pierces Cabal Family Shields. No longer prioritizes the catch action over the grapple melee if an enemy target is within grapple melee. Okay. Frenzied Blade decreased cooldown based on how many melee charges the player has stored. At 0 charges, cooldown reduced by 15%. At 2 charges, cooldown reduced by 30%. Okay. Arcane Needle decreased cooldown based on the number of melee charges. So, same thing. Grapple reduced base cooldown, which is nice. Reduce the maximum time between grapple activations from 2.5 to 0.2 seconds. Threat of generation, reduce energy generation provided by some damage over time mechanics, and reduce energy generation provided by trace rifles. All decent changes, I think, pretty solid overall. Stasis Hunter, increased projectile tracking of the Withering Blade, increased maximum tracking strength. Titan Shiver Strike, maximum thrust while in flight increased. Decreased maximum downward influence of gravity while in flight by 18%. Hollow Storm increased width of freezing cone versus players by 31%. Warlock Frost Pulse now provides 2 meters of additional melee range after activation for 1.2 seconds. I mean, we'll see how that all works out. I'm not sure if that's really going to be any kind of game-changing stuff, but it's just minor updates in the Crucible, which Stasis hasn't been very good for the Titan specifically, but even the Warlock outside of the turrets hasn't been all that great. So tuning pass, a wide variety of abilities, focus on those that significantly over or underperforming. Shoulder charge abilities, significantly easier to use. Increase their viability as a movement tool at cost of ability one shot. So they are. So your shoulder charges now cost 15% melee energy on activation. Base cooldowns are now standardized at 91 seconds, which is so lower cooldown, but you get your shoulder charge faster. But using it as a movement tool will take some of that. I actually think this change is probably not bad. I know some people are going to be upset about it, but it doesn't bother me whatsoever. And as a Peregrine Greaves user, I'm just going to get my shoulder charge back faster. That feels like it's going to be busted, but we'll see. My 100 strength Titan with Peregrine Greaves is laughing at that change. Based on your strength stat, the effective cooldown on shoulder charges as a movement tool will range from around 17 seconds at 0 to around 7 seconds at 100. Yeah, so that might be a problem. That might be I don't know about that right there. Adjustments to knockout, shield throws, Thorn Hammer, and sunspots. Knockout lunge range reduced. That's good. It's probably needed. Long overdue. Uncharged melee PvE damage bonus increased from 60 to 100%. Good. I like that. Shield throw, Thorn Hammer, Shield throw, increased base damage. I'm going to use shield throw a lot more, I think, going forward. I've already used it a lot, especially with the second chance gauntlets. Increased consistency of fighting and adjusting initial trajectory. That's good because sometimes it'd go all over the place and be kind of wild. Throwing hammer now adjusts the initial flight trajectory based on your aim assist target. So it's going to bonk more often, which is good, I think, for controller players. Soul Invictus, increased damage dealt by sunspots to enemy players per tick from 17 to 22. Minor change, not bad. Snare Bomb increased, this is for the Hunter, increased PV weakened duration on detonation from 4 to 8 seconds. That's good. That's not a bad change at all. Gunslingers, we got procs explosive, detonation damage versus players reduced, impact damage versus players increased. Okay, so basically the detonation explosion is going to be less. Weighted throwing knife on mouse and key, reduce minimum tracking shape. This shape grows over 0.5 seconds after projectile is thrown. Lightweight knife, projectile speed increased by 30 meters per second. From 30 to 40 meters per second. Tracking shape size increased. Gunpowder Gamble, reduced cooldown from 12 to 6. Ooh, that could be a lot of fun for a lot of people. That's a good change. I like that a lot. Warlocks, Incinerator Stat, fix an issue preventing secondary projectile arming shape from activating. Total damage versus players reduced for dramatically increased consistency. That makes sense. More consistent, less damage. Ball Lightning, we're increasing its PvE damage output. Good. PvE damage increased by 30%. Nice. Reduced ping scalar. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. The launch of Season 16, we made some tuning changes to charge scattered grenades to improve their consistency. Let's see. We're increasing the time players can hold a magnetic charge to allow more leeway to their timing to counterplay an enemy trying to close a gap. Scatter grenade, increased tracking consistency of charged scatter grenades, submunitions, increased submunition aiming duration, fix a bug, blah, blah, blah. Magnetic grenade, increased charge hold time from 3.2 to 4.5 seconds. So handheld supernova. Gotcha. And lightning surge. Let's see. Fix an issue, allowing a lightning surge to deal more instances of secondary strike damage than intended. Now targets can take a maximum of 2 instances of damage from a single activation. The change necessitated some changes in damage value, but in general, its damage output should be significantly more consistent and slightly higher than the intended value previously, but without the ability to one-shot a single enemy guardian from full health. That's a good change. Subclass tuning. Scorch, increased stun time before stacks begin falling off for on players and PvE combatants. Like that. Jolt, reduced base PvE damage. Reduce additional damage scalar. Okay, so they nerfed Jolt, which is a kind of a bummer, but understandable, especially with some of the super changes. Speed booster would make a handful of quality of life changes. Bonus jump acceleration scalar now activates while sprinting after 2.5 seconds, down from 3. Now lingers while player is not sprinting for 2 seconds, up from 1.5. Fix a bug with players who are already sprinting. They became amplified. Speed boost will not be granted. Okay, that's it for them. Overall, I'm excited about these changes. I think a lot of good. I think while some people are going to say that they increased difficulty, so we didn't need those changes. These changes aren't meant to reduce the difficulty, in my opinion, but balance the scales. So while some of these things may end up being broken, ultimately they don't want to nerf the good things that we have right now. They want to bring everything up so it is on the same level. And I want different options, for example, for PvE supers and all that kind of stuff. So good changes, but we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. I'm excited to test out different builds, different underused exotics. I think could really come into play with this. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Destiny 2 content from me going forward. I appreciate the love recently, everybody. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.